Imagine a world where nature has, well, completely reclaimed bustling cities, where silence reigns, mostly, broken only by, I don't know, the rustle of overgrown foliage, or maybe the chilling sound of something inhuman, lurking just out of sight. Every shadow conceals danger, right? And every single decision could mean the difference between life and, well, a brutal, terrifying death.
Yeah.
Yet amidst all this absolute desolation, something profoundly human emerges. This fierce, complicated, and utterly unforgettable bond between two people, just fighting to survive against all odds.
That connection.
Exactly. That, you see, is the beating heart of what we're diving into today. Welcome to the Deep Dive. This is where we crack open a stack of sources to bring you the most compelling insights, those surprising facts, and yeah, those satisfying aha moments you didn't even know you were missing. Today, our focus is the intricate and, let's be honest, often challenging development of Naughty Dog's seminal game, The Last of Us. We're not just looking at a game here, we're exploring a whole creative journey, one filled with really bold decisions, deeply felt artistry, and the kind of narrative risks that, well, they fundamentally redefine an entire medium.
They really do. It changed things.
Our stack of sources today is pretty diverse, actually. It's as diverse as the game's own world. We've got meticulously detailed Wikipedia entries tracing its conception, the technical breakthroughs,
Right, the dev side.
to sharp, insightful analyses from veteran gaming journalists dissecting its gameplay, its narrative choices. We've even pulled in a fascinating and sometimes hilariously satirical Reddit thread.
Oh, interesting.
Yeah, it unpacks common, sometimes pretty extreme criticisms of the game's storytelling. These varied perspectives are really going to help us truly unpack this creation from, well, every conceivable angle, revealing layers you might never have considered. Our mission in this deep dive is ambitious. We want to understand not just how this groundbreaking game was made, but why. Why certain artistic and narrative choices prove so incredibly impactful.
The why is key.
Exactly. And how they continue to provoke deep, often divided conversations amongst players, even years after its release. We'll uncover the secrets of its design, reveal some of the creative tension behind its arduous development, and explore the enduring legacy of a story that forces players to confront incredibly difficult questions about humanity, survival, and the moral compromises we make for love. And this isn't just for gamers, mind you. It's for anyone who appreciates powerful storytelling, the courage it takes to make creative risks, and just the sheer power of art to make us feel something profound, even uncomfortable. By the end of this deep dive, you'll gain a shortcut, really, to understanding the depth behind this cultural phenomenon, complete with surprising facts and those satisfying aha moments that make you feel truly well-informed.
What's truly remarkable about The Last of Us, I think, is that it didn't merely tell a story. It meticulously crafted an experience designed to evoke strong emotions and challenge, deeply held assumptions.
Right, it wasn't passive.
Not at all. From its very inception, the developers were intent on building tension, raising the emotional stakes for players, and intentionally sparking these meaningful conversations that resonate to this very day. We're going to examine how every single design choice, every beat of the narrative was calibrated to achieve this, often pushing boldly against conventional gaming wisdom, creating a world that truly demands your emotional investment.
So let's begin our journey right at the start, with the audacious, almost unthinkable decisions Naughty Dog made that ultimately allowed The Last of Us to even, well, spring into existence. This wasn't a project that emerged from comfortable circumstances. It was born from a real creative gamble. Okay, picture this moment in time. In 2009, Naughty Dog has just released Uncharted 2, Among Thieves. A game that wasn't just a critical darling, it was a commercial juggernaut.
Huge success.
Absolutely. Redefining cinematic action-adventure games, garnering widespread acclaim as, a masterpiece. You'd think naturally that a studio at the peak of its powers would just coast on that success, right? Maybe immediately funnel its entire proven team into Uncharted 3.
Safe bet.
But no. In a truly historic and frankly unprecedented move for the company, Naughty Dog made the decision to split its development into two concurrent teams. Now, this wasn't an idea they hadn't toyed with before. There was a prior unsuccessful attempt at a dual team setup during the development of Uncharted, Drake's Fortune.
Right, I remember that.
Yeah, it ultimately failed due to insufficient resources and maybe just a lack of organizational maturity at the time. Yet, co-presidents Evan Wells and Christoph Balestra felt, with the immense talent and experience forged by Uncharted 2, that the studio was finally seasoned enough to pull it off.
They felt ready.
Exactly. One team, predictably, went to work on Uncharted 3. The other, however, embarked on something far more mysterious, codenamed Project Thing, or T1, which of course would blossom into The Last of Us. This wasn't just a logistical decision,
Yeah.
It was a profound statement of artistic ambition.
This decision absolutely raises a critical question about creative leadership and risk. Why take such an enormous, potentially studio-fracturing risk, splitting a hugely successful team right at the height of its power?
It seems counterintuitive.
It does. But the true insight here is that Naughty Dog implicitly understood that to genuinely innovate, they sometimes had to disrupt their own success. It signals an immense ambition, a burning desire to explore entirely new creative territories beyond their established, beloved Uncharted formula.
Right.
The stakes were astronomically high. Could they maintain their signature, meticulous Naughty Dog quality with two major, demanding projects running simultaneously? It wasn't just about managing logistics and doubling their workload, it was about fostering two distinct creative visions without diluting either, facing potential talent drain, demanding unparalleled leadership. This move showcased a rare studio maturity where artistic aspiration truly outweighed comfortable repetition, doubling their risk in pursuit of something profoundly different.
Wow. Okay, so we have this ambitious studio split, but what kind of story would emerge from this blank slate? What kind of world? And here's where we uncover a truly surprising origin for one of the game's most iconic and, frankly, terrifying elements.
The infected.
Exactly. What truly makes this stand out beyond a generic apocalypse is the surprising origin of the infected themselves. Their central concept, these horrifying fungi-mutated creatures that dominate the game's devastated world. It wasn't born from some generic zombie trope or supernatural lore.
No, it was much cleverer than that.
Right. Instead, the inspiration came directly from a segment of the BBC nature documentary Planet Earth, which aired back in 2006. This particular segment featured the real-world cordyceps fungi. In nature, cordyceps primarily infects insects, ants, spiders, even caterpillars, effectively turning them into, well, zombie-like hosts.
It's genuinely creepy stuff.
It really is. Once infected, the fungus manipulates the insect's behavior, compelling it to climb to a high vantage point where it then dies, allowing the fungus to sprout from its corpse and spread its spores to new victims below. It's a gruesome, biologically terrifying process happening in nature right now.
Wild.
So the game takes this horrifying natural phenomenon and posits a hypothetical, terrifying evolution. What if this fungus could jump to humans? This fictional leap leads to the global outbreak that plunges humanity into chaos 20 years before Joel and Ellie's story even begins.
The ingenious aspect here is the grounded biological horror they established instead of relying on magic or voodoo or some vague unscientific virus.
Like we often see.
Exactly. They latched onto a real-world phenomenon and pushed its implications to a horrifying yet chillingly believable extreme. This gave them an incredibly unique and visceral foundation for their post-apocalyptic world, making the threat feel much more tangible, immediate, and unsettling for you, the player.
It feels almost possible.
Right. It's a subtle touch, but it significantly ratchets up the tension because the monster isn't some far-fetched fantasy. It's a twisted, evolved version of nature itself. You're not simply fighting monsters, you're fighting a natural process gone horrifically biologically wrong. And that creates a more profound sense of dread and helplessness, I think.
Okay, so armed with this terrifying, biologically plausible threat, game director Bruce Straley and creative director Neil Druckmann made another deliberate and incredibly bold choice. They chose not to explicitly explain the scientific cause of the fungus.
No deep dive into the mycology.
Right. No detailed mechanics of the outbreak or how exactly it mutated to infect humans. Instead, they preferred subtext, letting the decaying environment, those fragmented notes you find, and character interactions tell the story.
Show, don't tell.
Precisely. Straley even compared this narrative approach to games like BioShock Infinite, believing that such decisions, which encouraged players to fill in the gaps, spurred industry conversations and signaled a maturing industry. One capable of more sophisticated storytelling, he famously felt, "I've seen enough good stories in books and film, now I want to see them in video games." The team's primary focus was always on the characters. They used the infected and the desolate world as a brutal backdrop, really. A relentless catalyst to force players and Joel and Ellie to explore the very limits of human perseverance, love, morality.
The human condition under pressure.
Exactly, rather than getting bogged down in scientific exposition. They also made sure to clearly distinguish their infected from traditional zombies, underscoring their unique biological nature and the specific threats they posed. This was a deliberate choice to elevate the human drama.
And placing this in the broader context, this decision to prioritize character over exhaustive scientific exposition is absolutely crucial to the game's impact. It's a deliberate shift of the narrative stakes from what caused the apocalypse to how do people survive and remain human within it?
A much more interesting question, really.
Totally. By intentionally not providing all the answers, they create a world that feels far more authentic and less like some sterile science experiment. This approach forces you, the player, to connect with the raw human drama, making the horror feel more personal and less about solving a scientific mystery.
Right.
It means your emotional investment is centered on the struggles of Joel and Ellie and how they navigate a world where the biggest threats aren't always the monstrous fungi, but often other desperate survivors. This kind of nuanced storytelling pushes the boundaries of what video games can achieve, fostering a much more meaningful conversation about human nature and survival. It elevates the tension by making the why of human actions far more pressing than the how of the outbreak.
A compelling world and a unique threat are powerful, absolutely. But it's the characters who truly carry the weight of The Last of Us. Specifically, that relationship between Joel and Ellie. Which wasn't just a plot device, was it? It was a living, breathing entity that evolved significantly even during the game's lengthy development. Let's talk about Joel, the scarred survivor at the heart of our story. He was initially conceived as a very quiet, very cool under pressure type, stoic figure, drawing inspiration from Josh Brolin's portrayal of Llewellyn Moss in No Country for Old Men.
Ah, okay. I could see that.
Right. The early vision was for a man hardened by loss, but emotionally contained. But here's where the collaborative magic of game development truly shines and elevates a character beyond the initial concept. Troy Baker, the actor who brought Joel to life through voice and motion capture.
Incredible performance.
Phenomenal. He infused Joel with a far more emotional, vulnerable side than initially envisioned. Baker's performance profoundly shaped the narrative. The story then evolved into this harrowing exploration of a father figure's willingness to save a child. A narrative arc that moves from self-sacrifice, then to sacrificing friends, and ultimately to sacrificing all of humanity for Ellie.
That escalation is terrifying.
It really is. Baker found his emotional anchor point for the character in a chillingly stark phrase noted on Joel's character sheet. Joel had few moral lines left to cross.
Wow, that says so much.
Doesn't it? This single phrase immediately builds profound tension around his past and foreshadows the terrifying choices he might make. What depths would he sink to? What has he already done that stripped him of his moral compass? It hangs over everything.
This truly highlights a fascinating dynamic in game development. How actors can genuinely shape a character, imbuing them with depth and nuances that go beyond the initial script. Joel's journey isn't just about physical survival. It's a deep dive into the moral compromises forced by extreme circumstances, pushing the boundaries of what a protagonist will do. That phrase, few moral lines left to cross, isn't just a descriptor. It actively raises the emotional stakes for you, the player, constantly making you question Joel's decisions and motivations. His evolution from a cold, cynical smuggler to someone willing to burn the world for Ellie reflects a parent's ultimate, sometimes terrifying devotion. It forces us to confront a profound question. Where do our own moral lines lie when faced with such immense loss and the chance at a second, surrogate fatherhood?
It's heavy stuff. And speaking of raw emotion, the game's opening is notoriously brutal. Troy Baker himself found the prologue, where Joel tragically loses his daughter Sarah. Well, he found it incredibly difficult to film.
I can only imagine.
Neil Druckmann, observing Baker trying to channel his deepest pain, actually had to guide him to a more mechanical performance. Realizing that trying to impress audiences with an overt display of grief was, as he put it, not what the scene needed.
Interesting. So less was more, even there.
Exactly. The scene required a visceral, almost numb shock, not a performance. That's a testament to the depth of feeling inherent in that scene and the careful direction required to capture such raw, devastating human experience. Now, on to Ellie. The other half of this unbreakable duo. She almost had a completely different origin story. Initially conceived as Joel's biological daughter.
Really? I didn't know that.
Yeah. But the team quickly found this too limiting, too straightforward perhaps, for the complex character development they envisioned. Ashley Johnson, her incredibly talented voice and motion capture actor, was pivotal in shaping the Ellie we know.
Another stellar performance.
Absolutely. Her performance, especially her strong convictions, convinced Druckmann to rewrite Ellie as a stronger, more defensive, and fiercely independent character than initially planned. Johnson herself noted the discomfort of performing some of the game's more mature and violent scenes, which speaks volumes about the raw, adult themes the game wasn't afraid to tackle head-on.
It took courage from her too, then.
Definitely. That strength, that willingness to advocate for her character, truly made Ellie the resilient, unforgettable character we know. This wasn't just acting. It was actively shaping the story itself.
What's truly remarkable here is that Ellie's inspiration wasn't solely narrative-driven. Druckmann actually recalled a scrapped Uncharted 2 idea for a mute character who led the player through environments, creating this unique, non-verbal, beautiful gameplay bond.
So gameplay influencing character.
Exactly. This shows how disparate ideas can converge to form a rich, compelling character, linking gameplay mechanics with profound emotional impact. He also drew from very real, harrowing sources, the conflicts in Syria and Afghanistan, observing how conflict becomes a familiarity for children growing up in those war-torn regions.
Wow. That adds a whole other layer.
It does. This deep background adds incredible layers to Ellie's inherent resilience, making her far more than just a plucky sidekick. She's a deeply authentic product of her devastating environment, a child who has known nothing but struggle and danger. And that context raises the stakes of her journey immeasurably, making her a formidable and believable survivor.
It becomes abundantly clear as you play that everything in the game revolves around these two. The evolving relationship between Joel and Ellie was the central focus of the entire game.
The absolute core.
Right. With all other elements, the world, the infected, the gameplay developed around it as supporting structures. Their chemistry was deemed imperative during casting, which is why Troy Baker was ultimately selected for Joel, despite being younger than the character's initial concept.
They needed that spark.
They did. Their performances were so natural, so interwoven, that some dialogue was even improvised, apparently. Especially given the script's initial abundance of lines. This organic approach lent an authenticity that couldn't be purely scripted.
You feel it when you play.
Yeah. Community strategists Eric Monticelli and Arne Meyer consistently emphasized that the overarching themes were love, loyalty, and redemption, and that the game's visceral violence fit the narrative, embodying the powerful, brutal idea that you have to have the dark to have the light. The violence wasn't just gratuitous, it explicitly served the story, highlighting the harsh realities they faced.
And zooming out a bit, the game's creators firmly believed that just through simple interactions, you form a bond that's something you can't do in a passive medium like a film or a book.
Because you're doing it with them.
Precisely. This puts you, the player, squarely at the core of that evolving relationship. Your active decisions, your navigation of their shared journey, your moments of protection, all directly contribute to that emotional investment. The genius here is making the player an active, irreplaceable participant in the bonding process, raising the ultimate stake, your profound emotional connection to these characters.
Yeah.
It's this deep personal attachment that makes Joel's eventual choices and Ellie's reactions to them so incredibly impactful and, as we'll delve into later, so deeply divisive for you, the player, because you are implicitly part of that moral calculus.
Building a deep character relationship is one thing, right? But truly immersing players in a world that constantly reinforces that struggle, that feels authentically desperate. And that's another entirely different. Naughty Dog's design philosophy for The Last of Us was profoundly unique, meticulously engineered to evoke a constant gnawing sense of desperation and vulnerability. Naughty Dog really championed this less is more ethos, applying this minimalist philosophy not just to its narrative subtext, but across the entire spectrum of its action, sound, and art design.
It permeates everything.
It really does. Take the music, for instance. They brought in the acclaimed Argentinian composer Gustavo Santaolalla, known for his haunting minimalist work, very early in development.
Great choice. His style is perfect.
It was. He was given immense creative freedom. He famously used unique, often detuned instruments like the ronroco and unconventional recording spaces, sometimes even his own bathroom or kitchen, apparently.
Really?
Yeah. To create this sparse atmospheric score that simultaneously evoked profound danger and a fragile, fading innocence. This wasn't about epic orchestral swells. It was about creating a mood, a constant underlying hum of tension and melancholy.
What's truly remarkable here is how deliberate and pervasive this less is more approach was, particularly with the soundscape. It wasn't about a lack of resources. It was a conscious, artistic choice to amplify tension and make every auditory cue, no matter how small, incredibly impactful.
Every creak matters.
Exactly. Audio lead Philip Kovacs famously described their goal as doing more with less. By stripping back the sonic landscape, they didn't just create quiet, they created an eerie quiet that constantly reminds you of the desolation, the absence of human activity, and the lurking threats. This minimalist sound design makes any sudden noise, whether it's an enemy, a creaking floorboard, or the distant howl of an infected, absolutely terrifying, keeping you perpetually on edge.
And the sounds of the infected themselves are just a masterclass in sonic terror. The sound department started early in the process, completely creating new, distinct sounds for each type of infected.
Yeah.
The clicker's iconic bone-chilling sound, for example.
Ugh, that sound.
I know, right? It was actually inspired by a 2020 report on blind children who use clicking as a form of echolocation for communication.
No way. That's incredible.
Isn't it? The goal was to take a benign sound, a natural human method of navigation, and twist it into something terrifying, while simultaneously reflecting the creature's own pain, suffering, and blindness. That's pure genius, turning something innocent into something horrifying and tragic. Visually, the art direction was equally intentional. Robert Polidori's powerful photographs of the lower Ninth Ward after Hurricane Katrina heavily influenced the flooded, decaying Pittsburgh areas in the game, grounding the post-apocalyptic decay in a visceral sense of realistic tragedy. The art team aimed for a raw, uncompromising realism, carefully balancing simplicity and minute detail, using artistic composition to evoke a range of varying emotions, from quiet dread to stark beauty. But here's where we encounter a fascinating point of tension, one that sparked interesting critical conversations. One reviewer from Forbes, Andy Robertson, argued that the sound design actually outshone the gameplay.
Oh, how so?
Precisely because it's so thoroughly committed to this less is more philosophy. He felt that while the sound achieved this perfectly restrained, impactful quality, the combat, despite its grody realism, often felt like, and I'm quoting here, waves of enemies and inevitable continuance of violence, ultimately leading to a feeling of numbness rather than truly impactful, desperate violence.
No. So maybe too much combat undermined the atmosphere for him.
Potentially. It wasn't necessarily a criticism of the combat mechanics themselves, but rather of how they integrated with the overarching tone,
This raises an important question about creative consistency and player perception. When a studio articulates a clear vision, like less is more, and executes it flawlessly in one aspect, like the sound design.
Which they nailed.
Absolutely. But then another aspect of the game, like maybe the frequency of combat encounters, doesn't quite follow through for some players. It creates a fascinating tension for you, the player. It makes us think deeply about where the true emotional weight of the game resides. Is it in those quiet, atmospheric moments of exploration, the terrifying whispers of the environment, or in the visceral, often relentless combat sequences? This critique highlights the immense challenge of maintaining a singular artistic vision across all the complex, interactive facets of a modern video game, and how easy it is for even a brilliant design philosophy to be interpreted differently by its audience.
Building on that less is more philosophy, the game was meticulously crafted to make you feel the struggle, to constantly place you on the ragged edge of survival. The team developed entirely new engines, particularly for its AI, which was crucial for an immersive experience.
AI is so key in a game like this.
Totally. Ellie's AI, for instance, was a groundbreaking technical achievement. It was specifically designed to be an asset, to stay close to Joel, subtly anticipate your moves, react realistically to threats, and actively avoid being a burden on the player.
The dreaded escort mission problem.
Exactly. A common, often immersion-breaking frustration in games with AI companions. This wasn't just a convenience. It was vital for maintaining the emotional immersion and the illusion of a genuine partnership, allowing you to focus on the story, not on, babysitting your companion's pathfinding. But it wasn't just allies. Enemy AI was equally sophisticated, designed to be unpredictable, studying its surroundings, actively seeking flanking routes, finding new tactics.
They felt smart, dangerously so.
Right. This intelligence was specifically engineered to make players feel intense, often conflicting emotions towards them, not just fear, but possibly even frustration, grudging respect for their intelligence, or maybe the guilt of having to eliminate a seemingly organized group. Even the lighting engine was overhauled to incorporate soft light, with sunlight realistically seeping through shattered spaces and reflecting off decayed surfaces, creating a more realistic, immersive, and often melancholic atmosphere.
And placing this in a broader context, many typical video game features were intentionally omitted from The Last of Us, specifically to maintain this pervasive feeling of engineered desperation.
Like what, for example?
Well, things like traditional flashy boss fights or a conventional sticky cover system were deliberately left out. The team wanted players to constantly be on the move, to feel a perennial lack of supplies, and to be perpetually vulnerable.
Always scavenging.
Always.
Yeah.
Game director Bruce Straley famously emphasized this philosophy, stating, "You're not building yourself into a pank." This design choice deliberately raises the stakes of every single encounter, forcing difficult, split-second choices in combat, stealth, and crucially, resource management. You're never truly safe, never fully equipped, and that pervasive scarcity is a core, uncomfortable part of the emotional experience, designed to put you directly in Joel's desperate shoes.
And the combat philosophy itself was such a stark departure from Naughty Dog's previous work with Uncharted. Well, Uncharted was about agile, heroic gunplay.
Nathan Drake flipping around everywhere.
Right. The Last of Us adapted its combat system to be far more grounded and brutal, Joel being less nimble, less of a superhero than Nathan Drake. Melee combat in particular was overhauled, and camera angles were specifically altered to feel incredibly intense, designed to make players feel every single strike, whether delivering or receiving it.
It felt weighty, painful.
Yeah. This wasn't about exhilarating wins, it was about desperate, ugly survival. The game even subtly encouraged players to retreat from combat, despite it being an anti-video game play mechanic. Most games, you're rewarded for aggressively clearing out enemies.
But running away was often smarter here.
Exactly. It heightened the sense of realism and desperation. Even the online multiplayer mode embraced this deeper game experience over an abundance of typical game types. It meticulously aimed to recreate the slow, methodical pace and crucial crafting system of the single player. With lethal weapons and strategic item placement emphasizing stealth, teamwork, and a profound sense of consequence, where losing teammates was a truly significant, palpable setback. Every single element, from the single-player narrative to the multiplayer skirmishes, was pushing you, the player, to feel the brutal weight of survival. Okay, let's turn our attention now to the narrative choices, the ones that truly solidified The Last of Us as a groundbreaking and, at times, deeply controversial piece of art. The developers weren't afraid to take massive, character-defining risks with their storytelling, particularly as they approached the game's powerful climax. A major, quietly powerful motif woven throughout the entire game is that life goes on, often beautifully illustrated by nature's relentless reclamation of the fallen world.
The world healing itself, in a way.
Exactly. And nowhere is this more powerfully and perhaps tragically represented than in the iconic giraffe scene near the game's climax. This moment is widely referenced as the emotional denouement of this motif.
Such a memorable scene.
Really is. Concept artist John Sweeney designed it specifically to reignite Ellie's lust for life, to provide a brief, pure moment of wonder that would temporarily make her forget the surrounding struggle, death, and overwhelming trauma she had endured.
A moment of peace.
Right. The idea of wild animals roaming freely outside the quarantine zones was present from early concepts, originally involving deer, or even a zebra, apparently. But giraffes were ultimately chosen for their sheer majesty and unexpected beauty, making them the most remarkable thing Ellie could possibly encounter in that desolate landscape.
Unexpected is the word.
Neil Druckmann himself felt it works because of all the horrible things encountered beforehand, providing a stark, almost unbearable contrast to the pervasive brutality. IGN's Lucy O'Brien viewed it as a poignant reminder of Ellie's lost childhood, a fleeting glimpse of what might have been, while Kotaku's Kirk Hamilton saw it as a powerful, albeit brief, moment of hope after her traumatic encounter with David.
This specific scene absolutely raises an important question for you, the player. Can a single, breathtakingly beautiful moment truly counteract the brutal realities of this world? Or is it merely a temporary reprieve, a fragile illusion?
That's the tension, isn't it?
It is. Druckmann himself described it not as a turning point towards enduring happiness, but as a fleeting glimpse of Ellie's old self. A last spark of innocence before the lasting trauma of her preceding encounter with David permanently changes her. The scene acts as a powerful, yet profoundly fragile symbol of resilience. It's a deliberate artistic choice, meticulously designed to resonate deeply with you, the player, after all the hardships and moral compromises you've endured. It offers a brief, beautiful breath of fresh air before plunging back into the difficult moral territory that defines the game's conclusion, making the tension of what's to come even more palpable and emotionally fraught.
And then, there's the ending. The team expressly intended for it to be open to interpretation, a lingering question mark rather than a neat bow.
No easy answers.
None. Bruce Straley famously called it not your typical ending, but it's still a nice resolution, emphasizing its departure from conventional heroic conclusions. But here's where we uncover a truly pivotal moment in the game's development and its profound impact. The original ending they had envisioned was far more hopeful.
Oh, really? What was it?
Joel and Ellie would apparently settle peacefully in a re-establishing society in San Francisco, with Ellie fully believing Joel's fabricated story about the fireflies and the vaccine. However, Neil Druckmann found this optimistic conclusion dishonest.
Dishonest. Interesting word choice.
It is. He felt it was letting them off a little too easy, especially Joel, given the morally ambiguous actions he takes, and Ellie's acute awareness of his bad lying throughout their journey.
She sees right through him sometimes.
Right. The developers, you see, faced this significant creative fork in the road. They could have given players a conventionally happy or satisfying ending, one that rewarded their efforts with a clear victory. Instead, they chose a path that was artistically honest to their characters and the brutal world they inhabited, but dramatically challenging for the player. This decision highlights the immense stakes of their narrative vision, prioritizing emotional truth over easy closure.
This profound choice to embrace ambiguity and directly challenge player expectations, even battling against initial instincts within their own development team, is a truly powerful statement about the art of storytelling. It foregrounds the idea that compelling narratives aren't always satisfying in a conventional, predictable sense.
They don't always feel good.
Exactly. But they are honest, brutally so, about human nature and the complex, often devastating consequences of love in a brutal world. It forces you, the player, to grapple with the ethics of Joel's decision, rather than being handed a clear-cut answer or a simple heroic triumph. This moral ambiguity is precisely what gives the ending its enduring power and continues to fuel passionate debate among players. It ensures the story stays with you, forcing introspection long after the credits roll.
And a reaction to this choice, both internally and externally, was immediate and intense. Focus testers hated the final ending initially.
Hated it, wow.
Yeah, finding it unclear, anticlimactic, and profoundly unsatisfying. Many within Naughty Dog itself also disliked it at first, preferring the more traditional, hopeful resolution. However, as the game neared completion and the full weight of Joel and Ellie's journey settled in, they came around and really appreciated it, recognizing its artistic integrity.
So it took time to sink in, even for them.
Apparently so. The deliberate ambiguity of Ellie's quiet, okay, in response to Joel's lie about the fireflies was entirely intentional, contrasting sharply with that earlier, happier resolution that felt unrealistic given Ellie's keen perception of Joel's bad lying throughout their bond. VentureBeat's Dean Takahashi even inverted the famous Schindler's List quote, stating, "You save a life and doom the whole world."
Oof, that hits hard.
It does. Powerfully capturing the immense moral dilemma Joel forced upon humanity, and by extension upon us, the players, inviting us to weigh the cost of individual love against collective salvation. Okay, now, to fully grasp the enduring impact of these courageous narrative choices, we need to look beyond just the critical acclaim and dive into the vibrant, often tumultuous discussions within the gaming community.
Where the real arguments happen.
Exactly. We found a fascinating, highly upvoted Reddit post from the Real The Last of Us community, provocatively titled, "Some Examples of Why The Last of Us 2013 Has Such an Awful Story and Is Objectively One of the Worst Games Ever Made."
Wait, seriously?
Yeah.
About the first game.
Well, here's the thing. This post, with its clear satirical intent, offers a brilliant and insightful mirror to common, often extreme criticisms that are frequently aimed at video game sequels or stories that challenge conventional tropes. But here, it applies them humorously to the universally lauded original game.
Oh, okay. It's satire. That makes more sense.
Right. It reveals so much about player expectations, the intense scrutiny of narrative, and the passion these stories ignite.
That Reddit post, despite its obvious satirical intent, brilliantly highlights a fundamental tension. The one between player expectations, often conditioned by years of conventional storytelling, and bold artistic choices that deliberately subvert those expectations.
Like the ending we just talked about.
Precisely. It forces us to ask, what do we want from a story, and what happens when a story deliberately withholds conventional satisfaction or challenges our perceptions of what constitutes a hero? The comment section within the thread itself becomes this fascinating meta-commentary on how deeply players invest in these characters and narratives, and the sheer passion, both overwhelmingly positive and vehemently negative, that these creative risks can ignite. It shows the game truly succeeded in sparking meaningful conversations, even if some were born from a place of satirical critique.
Exactly. Let's unpack some of these satirical critiques, because even in jest, they reveal profound insights into player psychology. The post specifically critiques Sarah's death in the prologue as mere shock value and emotional manipulation.
Ouch. Even satirically.
Yeah. arguing it's not organic relationship building, but a lazy narrative device to drive Joel's subsequent story. It playfully calls Joel's implied character development over the 20 years between the outbreak and meeting Ellie lazy writing, suggesting it's inconsistent with his intro portrayal as a joke-cracking, law-abiding father, now suddenly a cold, cynical smuggler.
Okay, I can see the satirical angle there.
The post goes on to argue that Ellie exists solely to show us the type of loving father Joel would have been, and that powerful scenes like the giraffe sequence or the poignant music are manipulative ploys to make him seem good, despite his perceived psychopathic tendencies. It even claims Joel's sudden, intense care for Ellie at the end and his morally compromising decision to rescue her are inconsistent with his earlier self, ultimately rendering the player's entire quest and journey with Ellie insignificant if he was always destined to make that choice. Other comments in the satirical thread poke fun at Joel's supposed incompetence for a hardened killer, often pointing out how many times Ellie, the teenage girl, seemingly saves him from danger.
He does get into some scrapes.
He does. Some lament the unfulfilling ending, expecting a more conventional hero moment or a clear, happy resolution. And, quite provocatively, some comments satirically attack forced diversity by questioning, in a humorous but pointed way, why characters like Bill are gay, or why Sam and Henry are black, or why Joel even has a woman companion.
Right, mirroring real criticism sometimes seen online.
Exactly. It's crucial to understand this is framed as satire, directly mimicking real, albeit often extreme, criticisms found in certain corners of the gaming community, particularly those levied against later installments or more progressive storytelling.
So what does this all mean for the enduring legacy and understanding of The Last of Us? Even when criticisms are presented satirically, they reveal how intensely players can scrutinize character motivations, plot points, and overarching themes. The fervent discussions around whether Joel's ending choice makes the game pointless or whether his character arc is believable given his transformation, they are at the absolute heart of what makes this game such a powerful, if sometimes deeply divisive, experience.
The satire holds up a mirror.
It really does. This Reddit post captures the inherent tension when a game courageously pushes narrative boundaries, exposing the deep emotional investment and diverse expectations players bring to these meticulously crafted worlds. Ultimately, it asks us, as players, are actions always justifiable? And is there such a thing as an unambiguous hero in this world where survival trumps all? The fact that it still sparks such passionate, varied discussions, even satirically, confirms its profound impact.
Regardless of the ongoing debates and critical conversations, the monumental impact of The Last of Us is, well, undeniably, globally recognized. Its legacy continues to profoundly shape the gaming and broader entertainment landscape. Upon its release, The Last of Us received universal acclaim. Just showered with praise, it quickly became one of the highest-rated games ever released on both PlayStation 3 and later PlayStation 4.
Critically adored.
Totally. It swept numerous prestigious Game of the Year awards from prominent bodies like the British Academy Video Games Awards, DICE Awards, the Game Developers' Choice Awards, just solidifying its place. It is truly considered one of the most significant and influential games of its generation, and widely regarded as among the greatest video games of all time.
High praise indeed.
And its sequel, Part 2, also received universal critical acclaim, breaking records for Game of the Year awards, though it was certainly more divisive among fans, as that satirical Reddit post so cleverly hinted. The game has seen multiple re-releases, including a critically lauded remastered version and Part 1, a full remake built for the PlayStation 5, further cementing its irreplaceable place in gaming history. The original game script is even set to be published as a physical book in December 2025.
A book? Wow, that's rare for a game script.
It really is, a rare honor that speaks to its literary merit. This isn't just a game, it's an undeniable cultural touchstone, a narrative benchmark.
What's truly fascinating here is how a game that took so many audacious creative risks, especially with its ambiguous ending and profoundly challenging moral themes, was met with such widespread and enduring critical adoration. It powerfully demonstrates that pushing boundaries, daring to be dishonest to conventional expectations in favor of emotional and narrative honesty, can lead to monumental and enduring artistic success.
Risk can pay off.
Absolutely. This level of critical success, even with the passionate debate it continues to generate among its audience, only reinforces its status as a landmark achievement, fundamentally shaping how we think about storytelling, character development, and emotional immersion in interactive mediums. It's a testament to the power of a story that trusts its audience to grapple with discomfort.
The story of Joel and Ellie and the world they inhabit continues to evolve and expand across different mediums, doesn't it? Reaching entirely new audiences. The game, of course, spawned a critically acclaimed HBO television series.
Which was also fantastic.
It really was. Also received universal acclaim and major awards consideration, including an Emmy nomination for Outstanding Drama Series. The series, which has already been renewed for a third season, is widely praised for its powerful and nuanced depiction of female and LGBT characters like Ellie, Bill, Riley, and Lev. Some scripts in the series borrow dialogue directly from the game, almost word for word.
You recognize lines immediately.
Right. While others strategically deviate significantly, often at HBO's encouragement apparently, to focus even more intensely on character drama and emotional depth rather than just action-heavy sequences, maximizing the unique strengths of the television format.
Playing to the strengths of the medium.
Exactly. The very idea that the creators themselves are still actively exploring the what-ifs and what-nows of this world raises the stakes for fans, keeping us all on the edge of our seats, constantly wondering what's next. So looking ahead, what does all of this mean for the future of this beloved, brutal world?
Zooming out to the bigger picture, the continued profound success across multiple platforms. From game remakes to a major award-winning television adaptation, powerfully underscores the universal appeal of a deeply human story, even when it's set against a fantastical, horrific backdrop.
The human element shines through.
It does. Interestingly, the creators have adopted a cautious, almost reverent approach to further expansions. Neil Druckmann has indeed teased a concept for a part 3, stating there's probably one more chapter to this story that he's considered.
Ooh, intriguing.
It is. However, he's also offered a word of caution, advising fans not to bet on there being more of The Last of Us, noting the television series could be it.
Managing expectations.
Right. This cautious, deliberative stance shows a profound respect for the narrative integrity they've built. It's a willingness to conclude a story at its most impactful point, rather than endlessly chasing commercial success. This approach is a true testament to creating something genuinely meaningful, knowing when to allow a story to stand on its own as a complete artistic statement, or when to allow it to be reinterpreted and re-experienced in powerful new ways, maintaining its tension and relevance. Hashtag outro.
Well, we've journeyed through the ambitious origins of The Last of Us, haven't we? Uncovering how a nature documentary-inspired fungus ignited a groundbreaking dual-team development effort. We've unpacked the profound, evolving character arcs of Joel and Ellie, and how their deeply personal relationship became the very foundation of the entire game, meticulously shaped by both writers and the incredible actors who brought them to life.
That collaboration was key.
Absolutely. We explored the rigorous less is more philosophy that defined his atmospheric sound and art design, and the intentional gameplay choices that were engineered to evoke true desperation, constantly forcing players into uncomfortable moral quandaries. And perhaps most significantly, we delved into the courageous, often divisive narrative decisions, particularly that ambiguous ending that continue to spark fervent discussions and leave an indelible, thought-provoking mark on players globally.
Ultimately, The Last of Us is far more than just a game about survival in a broken world. It's a profound testament to the power of stories that dare to be, well, dishonest to our comfort, but profoundly honest to the raw complexities of love, devastating loss, and the impossible choices we are forced to make when faced with the absolute end of the world. It leaves us with a question that lingers long after the credits roll, doesn't it? One that resonates deep within our own humanity. When the stakes are everything, when society has crumbled, how much of our own humanity are we truly willing to sacrifice to protect the few we hold dear? And what version of ourselves do we ultimately become in that brutal process? The answers, as we've explored today, are rarely simple, often uncomfortable, and that, you see, is precisely what makes this deep dive so incredibly meaningful.